Hello, everyone. This is Steve from A Better Life. This podcast is brought to you by our sponsors, Premium Botanical. They are the makers of Herbal Spectrum, which is a full-spectrum hemp-based CBD. They make salves, liquids, and they have Hello, everyone. This is Steve from A Better Life. This podcast is brought to you by our sponsors, Premium Botanical. They are the makers of Herbal Spectrum, which is a full-spectrum hemp-based CBD. They make salves, liquids, and they have a great mixed berry gummy. You can check them out at www.mypbcbd.com. Now our podcast. Hello, everyone, and welcome back to A Better Life with George and Steve.
Happy New Year.
Happy New Year. Episode 1 of Season 2, if you can imagine. What do you think about that, George?
Kind of amazing. Amazing. It's definitely a milestone. We survived, 11 episodes, and we're going on strong. Season 2, Episode 1. Here we come.
It's funny because I remember seeing online someone saying, don't give up on your podcast because when you think it's time to give up, it's the time to keep going. You just haven't done it long enough. And strangely enough, we were off for a couple of weeks over the holidays, and we had a significant amount of downloads, and I'm almost shocked.
Yes. We go through our ebb and flows. There's weeks, I should say, where we're just hot and we're just constantly wanting to record and get more episodes out. And there's times where life takes over and we have things to take care of and whatnot, and it's just so hard to get together. But we made plans this week. We're sticking to it. It's Wednesday, and here it goes.
Here goes. We've talked about 100 things that we want to talk about today. Hopefully we'll talk at least about some of them. So I just wanted to touch base about something I said in the last episode or the episode before about Christmas Eve. So like I said, I was at my friend Anthony's house for Christmas Eve, and he got the impression that I didn't have a good time or the food wasn't good, and I blew it off. That is not the truth. The food was amazing. And he said he was embarrassed for me as an Italian that I don't know what the 7 fishes are. He gave me a little rundown. First of all, Christmas Eve, the feast of the 7 fishes. So he had steamed clams, shrimp cocktail, scallops wrapped in bacon. I'm allergic to scallops, so that's why I forgot those. Crab cakes, crab claws. He had what are the special little claws? You get them in Florida. Stone crab claws. They were awesome.
Yeah.
I tried not to eat them all before anyone else did, but they were really good. He had fried flounder that was just amazing. He had this fryer outside. He dropped all the flounder in. It was awesome. And he made smelts. And then he did the shrimp with angel hair with hot peppers. And it was, I call it aoi. It's ogle aoi, whatever, however it's pronounced. Aglio e olio. Thank you. I call it aoi. When your grandmother is Sicilian, everything's abbreviated. But I call it aoi and he used hot cherry peppers. Oh, it was so good. I was so stuffed. But anyway, he finished off the night. He said we had Italian pastries. Yes. And we actually had some pastries tonight. George and I from the same place. I bought the pastries, and they were pretty good. And his wife made her famous coconut cake that, yes, I had some, and yes, it was phenomenal.
Oh,
and even though I hate coconut, I still had some because you got some for the host. And Samantha was with me, and Samantha loves coconut. So sometimes you got to take one for the team, right? It was excellent. So I've also been reminded that the tradition of the feast, specifically the number 7, comes from the following. The number of the sacraments, 7 sacraments, the 7 days of creation, the 7 virtues, the 7 deadly sins, the 7 days it took Mary and Joseph to reach Bethlehem. So I was reminded of these things, and I just wanted to say to Anthony, I wanted to be sure that our listeners knew what a great time we had that night, and then the significance of the fishes and how hard he worked at it, and it was great. He also reminded me that even though we had Hartsdale House of Pizza for dinner tonight before we got started, because we hadn't had it in weeks, but he reminded me that New Haven pizza is amazing in New Haven, Connecticut, and I need to go to Sally's. Sally's in New Haven's the place
Sally's
to go.
a pizza. Okay.
So there's one in Stamford. He said
Right.
is just as good. So there may be a road trip, and I like to take a road trip to New Jersey to go to. It's in
Mawa.
It's right over the border from Suffern. My dad used to take me there when we were little. Kinchley's. It's been there since the 1920s.
Okay.
Old school place. You could barely fit in the seats. It's tiny. The line's out the door all the time. It's thin crust pizza, and it's awesome.
You got to eat it there.
Kinchley's in Mawa. Yeah, you got to eat it there.
Yeah.
We go there in the middle of the day when it's not crowded. So those are the things I needed to touch base on just to clear the record. I didn't want Anthony to think that I wasn't thankful and happy to be with him on Christmas Eve.
You got to start the year right. Make amends.
Make amends.
That's a very good shout out, and I appreciate the clarity of the 7. 7 days, 7 sacraments, all that makes sense now.
Yeah, it does. I'm glad you didn't ask me what are the 7 sacraments, because I could probably name 5 or 6. There's always one I forget. Anyway, George has been a world traveler since we've gone.
Not really. Little trips here and there, but ultimately, it's just you live every day to its fullest. I think that's one of the lessons I learned in 23. It was a tough year for me personally. Just perseverance, trying to keep my head afloat, and with good friends like you, Steve, and just a great network of buddies out there looking out after me and cheering me on. It's been great. Just trying to make the most of everything, be grateful, thankful, and humbled. I don't know. It's just one of those things where you hit a bump or a big bump in the road of life, and you pick yourself up and try to do the best every day.
Yeah, I've certainly had mine in the past 3 to 5 years. There's no question about it. But it's a new year.
Yeah.
Things are great.
Things are looking, upwards. Have some amazing opportunities ahead of me. I'm just trying to make sure, dotting all the I's, crossing the T's, making sure everything goes right, and have to believe in myself, right? Have to believe in ourselves to make the best of things to come.
Absolutely.
Mm-hmm.
You know me, I'm always, as soon as I see something new, I say, here's a new opportunity.
Eternal optimist.
Let's add it in.
And not only do you have a plate full, you have a table full of things that you're trying to spearhead and take control of. And it's amazing, this juggling act you do. Kudos to you, man.
Samantha asked me that. She was like, why do you do all these things? I said, listen, there comes a point in life when you realize that you're on the other side of 50%.
That second half.
And there are things that happen to you that could have taken your life or could have
Right.
whether illnesses or other things and accidents or whatever. And you say to yourself, you know what? I'm going to get it all in.
Yeah.
I'm going to just grab with both hands as much as I can and do the things, some for yourself, some for others. Certainly, I'm a collector a little bit, and I've certainly been out of hand the last couple of months. But my biggest accomplishment of the year so far is when George walked into my apartment, looked around, walked into Studio 3J, as we like to call it, and he looked around and said, oh my God, this place is so clean. Now that's a victory.
I mean, a lot of things have been put away. A lot of things have been straightened up. And the significant amount of room, even though I believe you've increased your phonograph collection by 30 to 40% since I've been here last. So I think you're up to 15 now.
15, but 4 are not here right at the moment. One's being worked on that is completed. The newest, biggest, coolest one. You didn't see that one with the big horn over the top, no, right?
No, but I mentioned, your eye to the details of each phonograph now must be so attuned. You're probably able to pick up certain things that different models, different years did not have, and you're becoming a specialist of these Edisons and Victrolas.
Yeah. In the back bedroom, I'm setting up a little museum.
Very cool.
I ordered some tables so I can layer them in.
Okay. Admission right now is free, but
Admission is free, right?
listen, in 2-3 years, you'll probably have 3x of what you have today, and people will be pinging you here and there, wanting to see if you're willing to let go of a certain amount of these trophies, these ancient artifacts.
It's funny because last week or the week before, I told Sam, I said, I'm only promised to buy one a month this year. And you realize that's 12, right? And then this week, I said, I'm sorry to tell you, I bought 3.
At least they're honest. Honesty, best policy.
What are you going to do? Good deals. I ran in. I'm a sucker for the same story. I meet people and that's pretty much how I got involved after I bought the first one. I meet people that say, this was my grandmother's. This was my great-grandmother's. This has been in our family for 60 years, and we'd like to give it a good home. And I ran into a few of those. And they're not looking for a lot of money. They're looking for people that's going to love
care for it.
What's been part of their lives their whole life.
And they know you'll be a great steward of that piece of history. Yes.
As you see, George came over tonight. We were eating. I'm polishing one of the ones, and I'm like, "Look at this, George! Look how nice this is.
The whole process is
grain of the wood. Yeah. Look how again. This is 120 years of grime
and of American ingenuity.
It's amazing how they still run. You wonder what we make today will still run. Right. I mean, you look at the pieces. Everything is so simplistic. And it all works and bounces. And
the least amount of mechanical parts, right?
Unbelievable.
Not overly engineered, but it's made to work, made to last with quality products or quality material. You take a look at a dishwasher today, good luck 5 years from now. But yeah, 120 years of...
So even the Edison. So Edison made one model that was called the Standard. So I have 3 different versions of the Standard. And one is the original version, and you could just see his mind progressing as you get to the final one. And it really is something, and in this case, something you hear. And you hear the song choices they took to record, and I don't know, maybe I brought another 100 cylinders this week, but everyone is like finding a gift.
Right. And, coming to today's recording, I was thinking a lot about movies. I had happened to catch Napoleon in the theaters. I watched Oppenheimer twice now, and the second time is better than the first. And then my girlfriend and we stumbled upon Monarch on Apple TV. And this is the Godzilla TV series that they just released. And that kind of propelled me to introduce Godzilla to my son, Andrew. And we ended up watching 3 Godzilla movies this past weekend because one was better than the other, and it just continued. And I'm on this like Godzilla renaissance. I'm absolutely obsessed over this Toho production. Although the ones that we watched were the Hollywood remakes, if you will, but they are fantastic.
Yeah, I was looking at that because he told me he's watching it, so I started watching Monarch. I'm on episode 4, I think, and it starts Kurt Russell, which is who everyone loves for some reason. Everybody loves Kurt Russell. It's like Mr. America. And it's really good. And then I started looking back when I was a kid. There used to be an afternoon movie every day on Channel 7, I think it was. And I don't know if it was after school movie or early movie or some story like that. Because there was an early movie, then there was a late movie, then there was a late movie. That's how it used to be. So this is like the early movie, I think, or afternoon movie, and they would do Godzilla Week.
Oh, wow.
And you would get 5 Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday,
and
Friday.
These were like the old Japanese productions. It was almost like claymation, right?
So I looked at that, and I realized they made a movie from like 1954. They made a movie a year to like the 70s. So everybody made a Godzilla movie in Japan.
And I had no interest in Godzilla until 7 days ago. And now it's completely taken over my mind, my mental space. This Godzilla and the special effects and then the storyline and the history of this whole Monarch universe. I can see how they took a page from either Star Wars or Marvel, and then now they're recreating this Monarch universe that they're calling it. And it's captivating, man.
You think about when I first started in Japan, you're less than 10 years after the drop of the bomb. Entire cities wiped out in Japan. Nagasaki.
So the theme of radioactive energy is widely in everyone's mind.
And it's the middle of the Cold War, and everyone's scared to death that we're going to blow each other up, right? So in the 50s, you had all this going on at once, and the thought of the radiation creating or mutating or creating this huge monster. And it's almost a metaphor because the bomb is and you bring up Oppenheimer, but they realize they're creating the end of the world. He realizes it the whole time.
Absolutely.
He reads the Hindu text in Oppenheimer. That's the famous story where he writes, I've become the destroyer of worlds, partly from Revelation, partly from the old Hindu text. But it's really pretty interesting because you really see the mind. So when you look back at those old Godzilla movies, you really see the different mindset of the world at the time. But Monarch is great. I've been watching it since you told me about it. So like I said, I'm on episode 4.
It's catchy. It's definitely you get hooked within 2 episodes, and then you just craving more and more. Good. Kudos to the guys who revived the whole Godzilla series.
Apple TV Plus. Apple TV
Incredible,
Plus is
right?
great. Oh,
Incredible.
I love Apple TV Plus.
Yeah. So
I love the morning show. Ted Lasso is ridiculously funny.
I love Ted Lasso on so many levels.
I mean, to think that was just a character that he came up off the top of his head with ESPN as a joke.
No kidding.
And somehow, it was a joke he did on ESPN.
Huh.
And next thing, it's a series, and next thing he wins every award, Emmys, Golden Globes, whatever. The writing is ridiculous. The cast is as talented as can be. It really is quite amazing. It's such a funny show. You could watch it 100 times.
I think I'm on my third cycle of Ted Lasso, and it's funny every single time I watch it. And it's actually not just funny. They hit on so many human elements of being a man, being married, being separated, being a mentor, being a coach. There's just so many aspects of things you can relate to and see yourself in, and that connection you get from all those different characters is really well delivered.
I agree. It's really good. And besides that, it's ridiculous funny.
And it's funny, yeah. Those have been my winding down rituals for the past few weeks. Great way to fall asleep.
I haven't seen Napoleon yet. I was kind of wait till it came out. I thought it was going to come out on Apple TV Plus for free. And I don't want to let anyone think that I'm on a budget, but especially when it comes to movies. But so I haven't seen it yet, and I'm dying to.
I would say wait for the director's cut. So my only take from watching it in the theaters, and it's the first release, although it was, 3 hours and change? Or was it 2 and change? But anyways, it was severely cut, according to the internet. And I believe it because the storyline, the character development, I think, was not up to par with the caliber of the director, right? Ridley Scott, legend. The guy can tell a story. And yet, the version I saw in the theaters, I felt that somehow the editing, they just weren't able to get the full gravitas of each character. And you could feel the lacking. I'm not taking away the movie by any means, but when you compare it to Gladiator or Prometheus or all those other greats, it's not where it could have been. And I think the director's cut probably will be significantly richer in all senses of cinematography. So that's my 2 cents. I am by no means a movie buff, but I could tell that from a storytelling standpoint, some things were a little rushed. And I watched it back to back with Oppenheimer, and the way Oppenheimer was told, was shot and edited, and just the chronology of the storytelling, man, that was just magnificent. And there's really not too many other words that you can use to describe the magnitude of Oppenheimer.
So it's funny, just to get back to Ridley Scott for a second, how prolific he is. He has 72 movies in what is he, 80?
Right.
72 movies he's currently working on, either as producer or director.
Yeah, he has another one coming out this year.
Just ridiculous. He's doing Alien Romulus. He's doing Gladiator 2. He's doing Blade Runner 2099. Gosh. And it just goes on and on. Emperor of the Sun Moon.
Wow.
He's doing a movie about the cartel. He's just ridiculous amount of movies that he works on at one time. We didn't really talk about in depth about Oppenheimer. I had the same feeling you did. When I saw it in the movies, I don't know. I went on opening day, went to the IMAX, got my tickets ahead of time, went in the day. And I don't know if there was just too much going on or it's just too complex or the subtleties of what he's trying to do with the story are just not made for the theater. And I know they're re-releasing it now for IMAX. But when I saw it at home, I thought it was one of the best movies I've ever seen. It's so different because you get the black and white and the color perspective and the subjective and objective viewpoints.
I think watching it in the theaters, you have some sort of pre-notion or you're probably hyped up to a point where you're not able to absorb everything and anything. I think for me, the hardest part was keeping the characters straight. There were so many important characters in the whole story that just keeping tabs on who they were, it took a while for me to even understand who they were the first time. And unless I went on Google and Googled the important characters, they were all pretty much important. And understanding the depth of each individual scientist, their wives or their significant others' perspective, and the officers and all that. The second time around, I had a little bit more knowledge of the pace of storytelling and what to anticipate. And still, I would pause at home and pick up on, so who was Dr. Teller? And, so he's the guy who wanted to do the H-bomb, but he petitioned it and no one took him seriously and whatnot. And I did that for maybe 5 or 6 characters just to get an idea of who his inner circle was, who were in the secondary circle and who were up against him, who were supporting him. It was just a lot of information to digest. I think it's one of those movies, like you said, you watch it numerous times, it's going to get better and better because it's just so interwoven, right? Everything is just so packed in, and it's a whole different way of storytelling, I think.
I agree. It definitely is. And I think we've talked about this before. And Christopher Nolan's known for telling 2 versions of the story at the same time. Mm-hmm. And that's why it's color and black and white. One's subjective, one's objective. And so he tells the same story from 2 different viewpoints. And like I said, he did it in Memento. He does it in Interstellar. He does it all along. And it's brilliant. Sometimes it's so brilliant, it takes you a while to catch on to it.
Style is just so unique and it's so awesome. Without watching Inception, I don't think I would get as much out of watching Oppenheimer, but you get a sense of the style of storytelling, and then you pick up on the story itself.
Inception, I'm still trying to catch on to.
Yeah, I'm sure I only have 5% of what Mr. Nolan was trying to.
Every time I watch it, I either fall asleep because it's so much to watch, or there's just so much to it. But it's an amazing job. He does an amazing way. He is a different kind of storyteller.
And I get the fact that directors have their favorite actors. I can see that the Nolan and Murphy combo is absolutely masterful.
But the first time he ever starred.
But he always plays a key component.
True. He loves him.
Yeah.
It's so funny. He isn't the only actor that he had in mind in that whole set of scenarios of people he liked. He has long relationships with actors. And the big part is still in his head sometimes. And that's how it was for Cillian Murphy. He always had the idea that he would be at that big part when that right part came along.
In the beginning, I'm like, what's Thomas Shelby doing here?
Because Peaky Blinders is the greatest.
That is so good.
You need subtitles to catch on what he said, even though everyone's speaking English. But they talk fast. They have slangs.
No, I went deep on Peaky Blinders too, and I'm grateful that there was 5 seasons of it.
Yeah,
or 6. But
I hear they're working on a movie.
That's what I hear.
And I don't know if that's true or not true, but I guess I don't look to see if it's true or not because I keep my fingers crossed.
I'll take it. It's not going to, I don't know how it's going to live up to the series, but I'll take it.
Aunt Polly was a key part of it.
Wasn't she?
Passed,
she was amazing.
When she passed, it was difficult.
Yeah. What an art form, huh? I really have become so appreciative of this TV series / cinema type of product. Netflix really killed it. They really nailed it out of the park. They knew that this was something the audience wanted, and they created a monster. Let's be honest.
They have a funny line when they talk about people starting businesses and everyone tells you it's crazy. They say, we used to rent DVDs.
Right.
Through the mail.
Right.
That's the line that the CEO says. We used to rent DVDs through the mail, and now look what we do.
That was like Blockbuster 2.0.
Put Blockbuster out of business.
Put them out of business. Sending out CDs, three CDs at a time.
Think about how revolutionary you used to have to get in a car, and everybody got down there, and no one wanted to go, and you never remembered to return it. This one you just threw in the mail.
That's right. I was a subscriber for those DVDs.
Oh, 3 at a time.
3 at a time. What a luxury.
3 at a time. I used to have them all the time.
And then they went digital, and the rest is history.
Everybody would come home or come visit or whatever. What do you got? What movies do you have?
Yeah.
And me, of course, I had this big time burning thing going on. Mm-hmm. I had hundreds of movies that I burned. I had built my homemade menus, and then I linked them to the Apple TV.
Wow.
So that anywhere in my house you could just go to a menu.
Jeez.
Right. And then I went even further. I hooked it up that you could go over through the internet, and we'd be in the summer house and be able to reach out to it and watch any movie you want.
And when they went streaming, I'm like, oh, who's going to do that? And everyone does that now.
Yeah, because we have the bandwidth now. And then I went farther than that. I took my iPhone and I used to film concerts, and I still have the films, but I don't have them set up the way I did. And then I converted them in a way so U2 and Adele on that U2's tour where they had that saw them at Madison Square Garden, and they had a screen that was the length of the garden, and the stage was in the middle of the screen, and there were all videos playing, and they were walking around playing inside the video. It was a real trip. I don't know really what it was, but look what they're doing now. They're in the Globe there in Las Vegas.
So you must have been a Napster person.
I wasn't.
You were not.
I wasn't. Because it was illegal.
All right. Fair enough.
But I'd film concerts and stuff, and then I would convert them to the same kind of files like you would convert DVDs. And then I would load them on my computer that you could stream the concert from any. So people say, oh, did you see U2 the other night? I said, oh, yeah, I happen to have a version right here. I remember my old brother-in-law being in the car, and he'd be like, how about when they played Bullet to Blue Sky? I was like, oh, yeah? I pull out my phone on the way from the concert, and I got the video on my phone, and I'm playing it through the sound system in the car. And he's like, how is it we're listening to something we just saw? And I was like, it's really pretty easy, but not everybody does.
Wow. Tech geeks.
Yeah, I always was. I always will be.
It's fun. It really is.
It is. I can't hack like I used to, and I miss that. But I know it's illegal now. That's some of the reason why I don't do it anymore.
It's frowned upon. I think that's the technical term.
I think about when what's his name says that in Hangover when he goes, it's not illegal. It's just frowned upon. We'll leave out what he's talking about. It's just frowned upon. It's not illegal. So anyway.
That's a great movie. That's a great movie that's always going to...
I remember the first time I saw it. I wouldn't see it in the movies. Everyone was talking about it. And then I sat down at home and watched it.
Yeah.
And it was so over the top. It's pretty hard to do over the top and make it work. Usually when you're over the top, it's just over the top.
Yeah.
But Hangover's over the top and they make it work.
I mean, remember when a Hot Tub Time Machine...
Oh,
another
the first one.
Ridiculous.
The first one was great. And I love John Cusack, first of all. But Hot Tub Time Machine was great.
It checks out.
Yeah.
Stupid movies really have a place in my heart. What about Dumb and Dumber? Tommy Boy?
Tommy Boy's pretty good.
These are just classics. Ace Ventura?
Ace Ventura is really That making that movie with him must have been as strange as could be.
Just coming out and who is this guy?
Yeah.
Who is this guy?
It's funny.
Yeah, but you know me. I rarely chime in when we talk about movies, but you got me going, man. This whole Godzilla thing has metamorphosized my take on the good old golden screen.
Yeah, I watched everything. I'm going. Sam and I are going through Mr. Robot, and I'm a Mr. Robot freak, and she loves it. So I don't even know what to say anymore. I've never been with anyone that actually loved Mr. Robot.
It's too deep for me. It's way beyond.
Everyone does. She saw things the first time she went through it. She saw things that I didn't see when I first went through it, and I'm like amazed because I'm obsessed with the damn show.
The whole genre is your thing.
Yeah, I love Mr. Robot. Huh. I'm up to the part with Robbie Carnevale, and I love Robbie Carnevale. I remember I saw him on Broadway in Glenn Ross.
Oh, wow.
When Aaron Sorkin rewrote the script, and Al Pacino was in it, and Bobby Carnevale, and one of the guys from West Wing. And it was just so good. It was so good. But you had to put the parts on their head because Al Pacino was in the original movie. But on the Broadway stage, Al Pacino was playing the Jack Lemmon part from the movie. So you have to if you saw the movie a million times like I did, you have to reset your brain. Just like when I saw Cat on a Hot Tiff Roof with Elizabeth Taylor's part being played by Scarlett Johansson.
No kidding.
That was really good too. Yeah, she was phenomenal. I didn't expect it, how good she was.
Yeah, I guess I don't give ScarJo that much or enough credit, but apparently she's a bona fide actress.
Match, whatever the tennis that was it. Match she was in, which was the one where they end up killing her at the end. Oh, I'm sorry, I won't bring up which one it is, so you don't know, so I don't give away the end plot. But I think it's Match.
All right.
What else? What else you want to talk about? I know we have some food ideas moving forward tonight.
It's just so cold out there today. I think it hit 18, but it felt like negative 60. It's so miserable out there today.
It was in the city. I parked across the street. Thank God I parked across the street from the doctor's office, just walked over. But people were wandering around aimlessly in the city. Even the cart vendors on the side of the road, they had no interest in doing anything.
It's tough.
So what do we have planned for this year? We need some guests, don't we?
That's a good idea to think about. Guests are always welcomed. I think we had a few in queue, but the holiday season and
right.
Schedule.
Well, we never went back to Franco. We never talked to him again. He was phenomenal.
Yeah. He's always on top of our short list.
I know, but I haven't talked to him about it. And then we got to have your pizza guy on, too.
Yeah, Jimmy Hank. Jimmy, if you're listening, which I know you are, we're going to have you on soon. We'll talk about a little bit of your Detroit-style pizza, your fermentation madness, and that Frico that you do. You are known as the Frico King.
What's Frico?
On a Detroit pizza, it's on like a Lloyd pan. It's high wall. Yeah. And then that extra cheese crust, the crisp, that's the Frico.
Oh.
And Jimmy's Frico is legendary amongst the pizza nerds out there. He competes at the Pizza Expo in Vegas in March. And he's...
Whoever knew there was such a thing.
Oh, come on. There's a thing for everything in Vegas, right?
Yeah, I guess so.
Yeah, that pizza competition. There's 8 or 12 different divisions of pizza, and last year I think was his first year competing, and he placed in a respectable number, and more power to you, Jimmy. We're rooting for you. We can't wait to have you on our podcast, and let's geek out on pizza.
Absolutely. I remember I sent you something on Instagram for my friend's restaurant. They were making gnocchi.
Oh, yeah?
And you were like, oh, that's a nice craft. And then next day I run into Paul, who owns Castellano in Elmsford, where he is, and he says, why don't you guys do a podcast from our restaurant? And I'm like, I don't know. He goes, listen, we'll make food. We'll keep bringing you food while you're doing your podcast. Right, so I'm like, and you could talk about it. And I'm like, all right, I'll talk to George. But I think Paul's such a good friend. I love him like a brother that we're going to have to go there.
Anytime people are making fresh pasta from scratch, the gnocchi that he was making, I'm sure they make a wonderful agnolotti, tagliatelle, all these.
When I eat there, you know what I have? Spaghetti and meatballs.
Okay.
Because his meatballs remind me of my mom's.
That's great.
So I have spaghetti and meatballs, but he has great. I love his stuffed zucchini flowers.
Yep.
Stuffed zucchini flowers are great. He has great crab cakes, but they're not all crab. They also scallop in them, so you have to be careful
deadly.
with me.
Yeah.
And the clams are good. Every pasta is good.
Is it more of a northern or a southern style, or is it more of a hodgepodge?
I would say he's part Sicilian.
I think the blossoms are more of a Roman, right? Naples Roman dish. Yeah. Perhaps the southern side of.
But they have all these specials all the time.
That's the best. You get to hear how it was created, the inspiration behind the dish. I love that stuff. I love when a chef talks about what inspired him or her to make that particular dish, the elements that you go in, and how the sum of the elements is just so much greater than anything else.
Of course, the menu's in Italian. I'm not going to pronounce all these words. Just the antipastas: clam cocktail, shrimp cocktail, jumbo crab meat cocktail, Italian ham and melon, prosciutto e melon, mozzarella, fresh tomatoes, basil. They do a whole thing with clams, shrimp, eggplant rotini, stuffed mushrooms. They do baked clams. They do clams and tomato and wine sauce, clams, mussels and tomato and wine sauce, stuffed mushrooms. Just goes on.
What's the place called?
Castelletto.
Castelletto. Okay.
And it's a little weird corner in Elmsford. They have 10 different veal cutlet, veal sauteed in white wine, veal batter flour with egg and lemon, veal scallopini, veal sauteed with marsala, veal with prosciutto, eggs. Just goes on and on. Breaded chicken. He just has a fantastic menu, and that's just the regular menu.
I see that. Spaghetti and meatballs. I got to laser focus on that as well.
So he has flounder, he has filet of sole, he has shrimp fra diavolo, what I really love over pasta, shrimp française, shrimp scampi, shrimp and scallops and mussels and thing, the whole zuppa de pêche. Goes on and on.
Looks great.
So I guess that means we're coming your way, Paul. I know. I saw it the other day. Paul works 500 jobs, even though he owns a restaurant.
Ugh.
And it's a big restaurant. You'll see it when we go. It's a big restaurant. And he does 500 things. He has a vending machine business. He's got 4 kids, I think. And he's working to...
He's the man.
He's killing himself. I see him at night in the cigar lounge. He comes in at 10:30, and he's exhausted.
Sure he is.
He's exhausted. He falls asleep with a cigar in his hand sometimes. Exhausted.
But what's better than a hard day's work? You sit down with your buddies for a cigar. Quite nice.
Yeah, he's a big guy, too. Just if you ever on the bad end of a punch with him, you definitely need plastic surgery.
You got me excited. I'm looking forward to a nice Italian meal.
He does a good job.
I love to talk about food. I love to talk about just the passion behind each dish.
All right, so I'll work that out with him.
Fantastic.
What else we got to do this year?
I think on the overall theme of a better life, I think we touch up on what makes us happy, what makes our clocks tick. I think giving back is such an integral part of being a good person, being someone that's benefiting society rather than just absorbing and taking. I don't know. I hope that at least just one person out there feels a little bit more relieved or a sense of togetherness, for lack of a better word. But again, anytime someone or any of you needs an ear to talk to or just to shoot a text or a line over, please do. We've all been there. I think Steve and I are great examples of people that just won't give up and would love to just be someone to run an idea through, or just a safe haven where you can just talk and not be judged.
Yeah, it's funny. I ran into somebody from, I think it's called the Westchester, I should know because I send them money every month, the Feeding Westchester Food Bank. And you would think, here we are, Westchester, a very affluent place, and nobody's really looking for food. But I think it's every Thursday or one night, I don't know if it's a week or a month, in White Plains along my route to my office, there's a food truck and people line up and can get groceries. And the first time I saw it, I didn't know what it was. And then I see this long line of people, and it's usually a woman with a few kids waiting in line trying to get a basket of food. And I recommend if you live in Westchester or work in Westchester, that you donate money to Feeding Westchester Food Bank. You don't have to give a lot. You could do whatever it is, $10, $20, $30 a month. If everybody does that, they would have more money than they need, and they set it up monthly. And I don't know how much I give a month, but they take it out every month, and they call me and thank me all the time.
Every bit helps, right?
Every bit helps. And if you're not in Westchester, from wherever you are, I know we are 160 countries now. Cities, 160 cities and 5 continents.
Right.
Listening, if you can imagine that. 5 continents. I don't know who you are out there listening to us.
Thank you.
But thank you. I want to say, don't you have something better to do with your time than listen to us talk now? So no matter where you are, there is some food bank or something like this. You could donate just food or a little bit of money or whatever it takes. Because hunger is a real problem out there, especially for children, and good food.
Nutritious food is scarce. It's more of a scarcity than you'd think. Let's put it that way.
It's so funny because when I'm driving, the first thing that goes through my head is think of all the money we give around the world, trillions, billions of dollars
for missiles
that we give for weapons and things like that. And I see here's a handful of people that live right down the street from me, and they don't have enough food to eat. How is that?
Right.
You know that you ever hear that joke that you never see you never see the military having a bake sale to raise money to run the school, to run their things.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, they seem to have a blank check.
Yeah.
But I think the whole theme is do good. Just sometimes take a moment, reflect, and just do good.
Yeah. To give back a little bit.
Give back.
Especially if you're doing well, especially if there's always somebody less fortunate than you. And I think that's real important. If like I said, if you're here in Westchester Food Bank, and please tell them you heard it on A Better Life with George and Steve, where we talked about it. Like I said, I give every month. And it's nice because we all get busy. We all get dumbed down in our lives and what we're interested in, or watching movies or collecting phonographs or whatever crazy crap I do. But then I know that at least automatically every month that some money goes to a good cause. And there's so many good causes out there. I mean, there's a church in Nyack I know very well that they run a soup kitchen. And I would say they're always looking for donations as well. And that's in Rockland County.
Yeah, it just comes down to the fundamentals of humanity.
Well, we all came here. My family, my father. I was reading my grandfather's naturalization papers, and he talks about what he came here and who he knew and what all that. And it was really just all bull. I don't think he knew all the people he talked about, how he had jobs. I don't think he had any of that. Right. I think he said it and filled out the form so he could get past. Yeah. He could get in. When he got in, he was a hardworking guy and he got a job. And
yeah, like so many families, right? So many
did whatever he could do. Met somebody. They all spoke the same language. He was from Austria-Hungary, Czechoslovakia at the time. I'm sure he found other people who were like him from that part of the world. And he got a job because he worked hard. And I think he started his own business, and he was building houses and stuff when he passed, because he passed before I was born. But one of those things. So here we are going to a new year, all with our New Year's resolutions. We've talked about people saying in the gyms, I think our New Year resolution is try to reach out and to help somebody less fortunate than yourself, whether it's physically, whether it's monetarily, whether it's support. And just people are going through tough times mentally, and it's just reach out there and try to help them. Believe me, you'll feel so much better for it.
Yeah, absolutely.
The world will be a better place. And I firmly believe into the idea of paying it forward. I have so many people that said in my life, and when I became I'm an arbitrator by trade now, attorney and arbitrator, and had a famous arbitrator. His name is Roger Marr, and he helped me get in the arbitration business. He helped me become a better arbitrator. He helped me make connections. He recommended me to people. And he would say to me, the only thing I want you to do is pay it forward. One day you're going to have an opportunity to help someone, and you should help them. And I do. I absolutely believe that.
Sure.
And I try to do that in everything I do.
Right.
Because we've all had tough times. We've all gone through difficult moments. And look where we live in New York. We went through 9/11. We went through other things. And there are families, and still families are paying the price for that, as we know, many people around us. So on that terribly upbeat note,
There's hope, right?
There is hope.
Let's just leave it at that. There's hope for everything. And if we can just take a step back and look past and not be so short-sighted all the time, paying it forward is a huge, it's a blessing. It's a blessing that you can actively participate in. And we can leave it at that.
yes. So we'll be back next week.
I'm thinking lamb stew. I don't know why that just popped in my head, but a nice hearty red meat type of stew, I think would be very apropos.
And those of you who know me out there know I hate lamb. If we do make it, I'm sure George will tell you how it is.
All right, we'll make it a beef stew.
All
There
right,
we go.
I'm in for beef. I love beef. I love pork.
Yes, no scallops and no lamb for Steve.
No scallops, no lamb, and green peppers.
And pineapple, not pineapple, coconut.
So Sam made me this really great dinner and had all these vegetables in it. And right afterwards, I started not to feel well, and I was trying to hold it in, and it just got out of hand. And I was sick all night. I was sick the next day. I was sick for 3 days, and a day or so went by, and I said to her, let me ask you a question. Was there any green peppers in there? And she was like, yeah, there were lots of them. I said, I forgot to tell you, I'm allergic to green peppers.
There you go.
So on that note,
Growing pains.
growing pains. On that note, I wish you all a happy new year.
Season 2, episode 1.
In the
Complete.
can.
Yep.
And
All right, guys.
Good. Wish you the best for years and this year, and we'll hear you in a week. Thank you so much for listening. Thank you all you've done for us over this
Yes.
time period, and we'll see you again
All right,
soon.
signing off.